Okay. Let's see. Hopefully, folks can hear me, can see me, all that good stuff. The interface says I can see myself. It's always great. And it says my mic is making sound. So hopefully everything is good. Happy Friday, everybody. It'd be nice to go through a couple of these and not have an amazing number of issues. I don't really think I have too many programming notes. I don't really. Frederick says working, asks how I am. I am grand, Frederick. How are you? Thanks for sending me that Warlock to 2K Warlock 2000 document. That is awesome because I think I have one of those original Warlock books from the 70s somewhere, but I was looking around for it yesterday and I could not find it. So I'm glad to have something. There's a I don't think it'll come. I don't know if we'll see it on the list, but I guess some old school website hosts some of these Warlock documentation to this. Is it the first, I don't know, alternate rule set, or I don't even know what we call it for D&D, called Warlock, that came out of California in the 70s. And there was a bunch of the documents are held on a really old website. And I guess that website's going away. I'm not exactly sure why or the wherefores, but it is going. And so I found myself scrambling around to try to secure some of the documents before they disappear completely. And Frederick was nice enough to help. I'm on TikTok, by the way, and I'll probably do a video on it because I've been a little bit fascinated with TikTok lately. And if you haven't checked it out, and I don't blame you because you first log on to it, it's like some kind of nightmare. But if there needs to be a more user friendly, think way for getting through it. But once you can start to filter things out into filter the videos into things that are actually compelling, there you'll see that there's actually a pretty vibrant D&D TTRPG little community there. I don't know, little. I haven't looked at the numbers, but it's pretty cool. And there's some things there that YouTube doesn't have, or I think maybe they used to have a few of these things way long ago. They don't now. Things like being able to pose a question and someone can basically take your video and then, if you've seen any of the shorts that are hitting mine, I've been taking some of these things. If someone asks a question and you can take a fragment of their video, record basically another side to it, so you can reply, answer to stuff. Pretty neat. So you get people asking questions. You can actually record up to 10 minutes, though. I don't know how many people watch 10-minute videos on TikTok, but it's not just 1 minute super fast videos anymore. And there's stuff a little bit more thoughtful than some of the stuff that put me off of TikTok originally, which is just kind of goofy, jump and I've changed costumes kind of thing. So people still, there's tons of that too, but there is actually more stuff going on. Maybe I'll make a video on it, but I was kind of a little bit surprised once I was able to get past that just, oh gosh, what is this? My eyes are bleeding from the homepage or whatever the vanilla experience of TikTok to okay, search. They got kind of a hashtag system, hashtag D&D, hashtag D&D TikTok. Oh wow, there are people putting out really thoughtful pieces just in kind of more or less bite-sized units, and you can sort of riff off those units. You can again question and answer and just sort of have a conversation. And okay, it's cool. I'm digging it. Perkins says, "Happy Friday, happy Friday." So that's all I've got. I'll do something more on the TikTok thing because I don't know if people it's already come and gone, but with everything going on with things like Twitter, who knows what the heck is going to go on with some of that stuff. And some things, for whatever reason, I just don't find I get much traction on. Well, I think if you've been on some of my other streams this week, I mentioned Twitch. Twitch don't like me at all. I don't know what I did to anger the Twitch gods, but forget about it. And then Instagram, I post stuff there, and I'm posting now shorts and things up there too, and images, but doesn't not setting the world on fire. I mean, I'm talking relatively speaking. I'm not saying setting the world on fire like, "Ooh, I'm some kind of influencer now." But I mean, even in just my little band of what I would consider to be, "Oh, wow, this is people are appreciate or people are enjoying this or it's responding to it." It's bleh, 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 bleh. But actually, TikTok's been kind of a surprise in that regard. Grand is all. Okay. I'm not sure I know what that. I'm not sure I know what that reference, Frederick. I'm thinking the what was that Morgoth's hammer that also was the ram used by Sauron when he's when he's battering down the gates of Minas Tirith. That was Grand. Okay, we're on the RPG Roundup multi Reddit, which you can join from the comfort of your own home if you would like to. I've put the link in the show notes everywhere. You find it. Let's see what we've got. Oh yeah, I'm going to switch to new so I avoid some of the oddities I found when I go to hot. New release, the Crimson Crusade. Sounds good. Armor of Black Flame edition. All right, fine, good for you, but no thanks. Chronicles of Terra Volume 2. How long? Oh, might be a good one. I don't know. I have an answer for it, but I'm interested. Has anybody answered it? 6 comments. Great. This was posted to the DM Academy subreddit. How long out of combat can creatures be surprised again? This was posted by Riz8 Drzu Riz8 DRZU6. I have an assassin Gloomstalker in my party who went off on a solo mission to take down a bandit camp. He gets surprised from hiding in the edge of the woods and one shots a bandit. The other bandits go in and try to find him, don't beat his stealth, then give up and come back to camp. How long, e.g., minutes, hours, before he can surprise and snipe another bandit? Well, I suppose there's 2 ways to look at it. Clearly, you're at a camp, one of your number is sniped. You know they're out there, you didn't find them. I don't think you just go back to normal. I mean, that would be a weird thing. Think of in real life, a shot rings out in your neighborhood, one of your neighbors collapses. Do you just go back in and go back to sleep? How long would it take you to feel comfortable? Probably not until you felt like something had really happened. Either a lot of time has passed, or they found the person, or have clearly chased them off. Maybe you didn't capture them, but you run them off somewhere else. It's going to be a while. Now, that said, from a sniper standpoint, you could still have folks on guard and can still be vulnerable to sniping. So I might put disadvantage, but I'd also use a lot of fictional positioning. What's the assassin doing? Is because a kind of a camp, you could be on guard, but you still have people positioned potentially in watchtowers. Maybe they're on patrol, they can't see everything. They kind of have to be at least partially out in the open, even if you're in a unless you have watchtowers, are just little slits where you're looking through with your eyes, you're standing in some kind of tower, you're a bit exposed. So there's that kind of element. And then what's the assassin doing? But I would definitely have that alert level rise, and it's gonna stay there for a while and maybe roll dice, but it's definitely if it's hours, then it's 12 hours. I mean, if this was in the night, then it would be have to be the next day. It wouldn't just be, oh, in 5 minutes they're back to normal like it's metal. I remember playing Metal Gear Solid. You could run around that first base and you could kill guys and they would go on high alert and something would happen, but then in 30 seconds they would cool off again and be doing it. No, that part is not happening. So they're gonna have to figure out some stuff. They're gonna have to figure out some stuff. They're gonna have to figure out how to move around, try to hit points. If you hit someone on the left, let's say the east side, maybe go to the north, go to the west. Gonna have to do that. But if they can do that, I'll give them some leeway. Though I would probably want to put some kind of negative modifier on the stealth because once you've sniped them, they're going to be looking for you. Perkins, hey Ian. Perkins says, I will let him try again, but in one turn. But the bandits are alert now, so nerf is stealth a bit. I would want to reward the player to a point. Yeah, I want to definitely reward the player, but I want to reward them for continuing to be creative and thoughtful. And I just have a problem. Maybe it's just me. This could be my own little picadillo, but you've built this person, this character, and you put umpteen points into stealth. I want you to roll into stealth, but just having those points is to me is just not enough. Like you make an effort in character gen, and then you just ride that out for the whole campaign. I want more. So I want them to keep weaving, bobbing. Give me some tactical ideas. Oh, I was up in a tree when I sniped them. Now I'm going to, think of a movie like Rambo, or I would say First Blood. Rambo's out in the wilderness, and all those guys are chasing them, and he's creating all these little traps and deadfall traps and using the terrain to his advantage, all these different things. That's what I want that player to be doing. And not just be like, well, I got 20 stealth, so they can't see me. Like to a point. So yeah, I want to reward the player, but I want to continually push them for new plans, new things. I don't want it to be where you're just sitting on the laurels of the fact that you've got whatever in stealth. Ian says, must have been the wind. Resume program route. Yeah, exactly. I'm curious what some of these other folks say. So CAD 115 says, normally I would say that he doesn't get surprised again until combat is over and you take things off initiative. At that point, people are no longer actively prepared for a fight. That said, in this situation, I think it should take longer. Unless you want these guys to be Skyrim bandit level stupid, they aren't going to totally forget that someone just shot their friend. They would likely stay on high alert at least for the rest of the day, maybe even longer. Yeah, I don't mind that. I would say that I don't think being surprised is just about being actively prepared for a fight because remember, someone could be totally not prepared for a fight, but you run right at them. It's all about do you have that? I just think some little wherewithal about you, almost like the hackles on your neck. You have a little bit of that spidey senses tingling. And I think when someone's just, you know what, just an active sniper in the area, your senses are tingling. So I think that it's not just I'm ready for you. It's like, yeah, I'm aware of you. My awareness is broad. When before this sniper hit, my awareness was probably like, it's just another day at the office as I'm sitting here in front of this wooden palisade or whatever it is, this boundary of the camp. And then when my friend just gets shot with an arrow and crumples to the ground dead, suddenly my awareness is a lot broader. But that said, a lot of the terrain may still very much favor the sniper and especially if they start making moves, which I hope they would do, then the sniper can probably might be able to keep me on my toes. It's a little bit you get to have an interesting kind of cat and mouse encounter. Morgan says, I agree. The player needs to do more to keep up the success. Yep, you did one thing and it worked. Now you got to do something else. Let's see what else we have here of the interesting combats. Folks are it seems like people are going like did combat end? And I think you got to go a little bit deeper than that. Whether you ending combat in some ways is just a meta distinction that the GM makes. You shoot the guy, okay, we're rolling initiative, you're in combat. When does that combat end? It kind of ends when I say it ends. It's really just a distinction between are we still in initiative or not. So I don't know in this case if I would say if you exit out of combat, right? It's not a different mode. We're not in Final Fantasy VII. We're not going to swirl to a different interface and then swirl back to an overland map. We're in the same spot. We're in the same situation. It's just are we counting in minutes or are we counting in seconds? And at least for me, when this person starts their shooting spree, I'm going to go down an initiative, whether they're being actively chased or not, because there's going to be a lot of important steps. Then if they get to the point where, or at which none of the guys are in their area, something else that I might say, okay, we're going to relax back to non initiative time. But I don't know that I would say in terms of this surprise thing, if it's just based on whether it's combat or not. 'Cause that's really just up to me. I could, might not make sense, but I could just say, nope, we're staying in combat for this entire overall encounter. It would probably be a little bit too, I feel like that would be a little much, but I could. So I wouldn't want to tie this adjudication to whether we're in combat mode or not. Ian says, been thinking about how they design an RPG, and I think circumstantial bonuses need to be weighed more. Proficiency might give you a half plus half in stealth, but specific camo should plus one distraction plus one. I mean, isn't that what kind of tools and that I think in fifth edition anywhere it's supposed to be that sort of tool stuff, right? Camo would be a tool. I'm totally fine. My glasses fall off my head. I'm totally fine with ye old circumstantial modifiers. And that's one weakness of the advantage disadvantage system is that you don't get that. You just have advantage. So all that assassin has to do is achieve advantage, and there's no reason to press for more or to get granular. Whereas I agree, Ian. I think in my perfect scenarios, you're trying to stack up all these things and you want them all. I want my camo. I want my ghillie suit. I want night. I want the cover of night. I want terrain advantages. I want to have spiked their water supply with hallucinogenic that's going to make them a little bit loopy. I want to do all this stuff. I want as many of those bonuses that I can get, and then then I can run a bunch and I can wear those bonuses down, use them until I can't use them anymore. And unfortunately, with advantage and disadvantage, it doesn't stack that way. And as soon as you get that one advantage, if I had stacked all this stuff up for advantage, one disadvantage wipes the whole thing out. So it's definitely a weakness of that system. Trying to save everybody from hearing me cough. Frederick says missing out on leading them into an ambush spot. Well, I'm not trying to tell this particular assassin how to do it, Frederick. I'm just simply saying in general. Ambush spots, deadfalls, leading him off of cliffs, whatever you've got. Ian says fifth edition would only give you proficiency, but your skill might give you a plus 10 or more as a very skilled rogue. Oh, I see. Well, I am definitely in favor of proficiency. If you have training that puts you on, in my mind anyway, puts you on a higher level than someone who's just got kind of natural ability. And I certainly would have no problem with saying we're gonna kind of relax, or we're gonna tune down the just kind of your natural affinity for a skill in favor of training. I'm all about that. Faux show. Okay, I don't know if there's any other super interesting responses. What else have we got? Why was Freya naturally fond of toilets? I don't know. You can make that up. This might be good. This is 5th edition centric, but that's okay. We could probably use it for something else if we want. This is going to go to a Google Doc, so we'll see how this is going to be super messy or not. Isoxy's Guide to Town Building Rules. Welcome to the rules of the Guide to Town Building. The rules are always being expanded, and there are upcoming systems that are going to be added to the rules. Eventually, we're planning. Maybe I'm not. You know what? I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna go and get into typos. Eventually, we're planning on releasing a series of books for general world building from a logistics perspective, but these serve to create individual towns in your world. I'm always down for the logistics perspective. So first up, we have town antiquity and size. Each town has a different size and age it has been in and has been in. In the following section, you'll be able to find the size table to determine the amount of total dice you will get for rolling. All right, I'm not sure what we're going to be using total dice for, but first of all, I do like this a lot. Let me see. Is there a? I don't see if I don't. I'll put a. I'll come back to it and get a a more trimmed down, trim and slim URL. But if you want to check out this out as I'm reading it, go to Reddit and look up D&D 5e Town Building Guide. Maybe look up. Oh, it's actually the user who posted it is Mr. Asian Pop Tart One. But maybe if you search for that, you'll get there. And I'll post later on after this. I'll go make a tiny URL type of this, and I'll drop it in the show description. Remind me if I forget. We have these different dice, or different amounts of dice depending on the size of our settlements. First size is called settlement. We get a whole bunch of this total dice stuff, which I don't understand. 48 D4, 12 D6, or 48 minus D4, 12 minus D6. I'm not sure. Bunch of dice. Then we have a modifier. We don't know what it is yet. An average, a number of residents, an age, and I guess the minimum age. And it goes from settlement to village to city to town to kingdom. Kingdom's not a town. I'm not sure. And settlement, I wouldn't use settlement. Maybe I'll replace that with hamlet. And this is a swig of watered down hibiscus iced tea for the working man. All right, so here are we got a bunch of bullet notes here. D6, roll a D6 to determine the size of your town. If you have a town in mind for your PCs, and you can simply choose the size of the town and use the information as a guideline. All right, so that's just this first column where it's a D6 number. 1 is settlement, 2 is village, 3 to 4 is town, 5 is city, 6 is kingdom. on the size. The size of your town determines factors like import and export capacity and a general threshold for residents. Okay, that's what's just a name. Total dice. Here we go. These are the amount of dice you are given to roll. You can choose to roll as many dice as you like per category. These are the amount of dice you are given to roll. You can choose to roll as many dice as you like per category. I don't know what that is. Okay. We'll have to see what that is. Modifier, this is the number you add into your technology score. So settlements have no modifier. Villages +3, town +5, city +8, kingdom +12. Average, this is a recommended number of dice to throw per technology. I think they could have, it would have been nice to probably have some kind of intro that would tell us a little bit about this before they threw the table at us. But okay, so we're going to be doing stuff with different technologies. And this is saying, even though you could use up to 48 D4s and 12 D6s, they're saying just use 4 and 1. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I knew more about what the purpose was. Because wouldn't I want to just throw the maximum amount of dice all the time? Or what? Residents, total population, antiquity. You can use any antiquity that is under your size, basically the minimum age of the place, and then you can have could be more of a maximum. Kingdom has a minimum of 500 years. Seems a bit much. Age, the age of your town is only relevant to the contextual history of it. Okay. All right. I still don't really know what's going on, but they're setting the ground rules, hopefully. So now we're on to technologies. Each town has developed technologies. Each of the technologies help and cost the town in some way or another, but they're not necessarily bad. Well, I would hope they would have some good, but technologies seem to have a very broad meaning here because stuff like crime is listed as a technology. So is leisure, recreation, religion, education, health, agriculture, production, commerce, services, leadership, military. I wonder if technologies is the right word. But let's see what they are. So crime means criminal activity is present in your town and is affecting your population, but benefiting the aristocrats. You can invest building materials in this technology to build a criminal network. I'm wondering now if this is all the dice you have, and then you can divvy them up. So if I spend whatever, 4d6, 4d4 and 1d6 on crime in a settlement, then I would scratch off that number of dice and I would have left 44 d4 and 11 d6. Is that what they mean? I'm not sure. To be determined. Leisure is entertainment, recreation is really more is it's more places to meet, parks, fountains. I almost think that leisure should be called culture, recreation should be called leisure. Religion, holy places, education, health, agriculture, production, commerce, services, leadership. Agriculture is interesting because you really shouldn't. I think they're kind of. It seems like there might be a little bit of confusion because if you're in a city, you don't have any real agriculture to speak of. What you have is you have a bunch of things around you that supply you with agriculture. So I'm not sure what that would mean. Is the higher that score meaning that you have a lot of farmland around you or that you have enough trade? But it's probably not going to be that you have lots of farms inside your big city. So I'm a little bit confused as to what that would be. And then production, smithies, tanners, glass makers. I guess it makes kind of sense, but it's similar to commerce. I think that's more trade, services. How are aristocrats helping the common folk of your town? This is kind of your public buildings. A little bit of overlap with that and say recreation, leadership, and then military. Building materials. Your technology score defines the amount of building materials you can put in a single technology. Building materials are used to construct buildings and are placed into building types within a technology. We are going to use the following example to define the system. All right, this should be. Can I zoom in on this a bit? Where's my glasses? Okay. We have the village of Eppley. It's 527 years old, has 746 inhabitants, takes in almost 50,000 gold pieces a month in taxes. That seems really high. This is a rich village. So we've got crime, and they put in scores in guild, drug dens, mercenaries. So guild, drug dens, and mercenaries. I don't know if that's five is in the number or just the level. And then they also have an undercity and a black market. Culture are things like inns, taverns, theaters, lodges, and fairs. They have this is a weird town. They've got a whole bunch of crime guilds, drug dens, mercenary centers. They have an undercity and a black market, but they have no lodge fair. They have one tavern and one inn, but they do have a fairly good library. They have an herbalist. They've got two towers, the two towers, Saruman. Um, as far as law and order, they got nothing. They got a fair amount of production, some recreation, bunch of trade. This is only 9 wealth. That's 50,000 gold a month is 9 wealth. And then they have some in worship. And then they have some notes. This is 100% Zentarim. They have an adventurers guild and a guild of the unseen. They have a black market that's, I guess, information +1. I don't know what that means yet. They have a +2 metal worker. A butcher has a +2 processor. An alchemist has a paint maker +2. And the mines produce platinum and gold. And it's 100% stable. Even though they have no order, it's 100% stable. I feel like you can't. Well, I guess it has 10 order, but nothing. They haven't built anything. I'm kind of intrigued by the system, but it feels really messy. And it seems like it's also conflating things together, like towns and essentially organized societies, because generally the mines would be outside the town, but that the mines output of the mines would go to the town that is closest and easiest to transport to get that influx, but that you wouldn't. Maybe I guess maybe the town would own the mines, much like if you were, I don't know, around Deadwood and you're in you're gold mining, that the mines sort of belong to Deadwood, but there's nothing saying that someone couldn't take the gold from their mines and go to some other town with it. And then, I don't know, it's a little bit iffy to me. And the other thing is, yeah, the butcher with the +2 processor, that's kind of cool, but it's so granular. Like when am I ever going to get into a situation where I need to know that we have a +2 processor? I'm just going to assume the butcher can process. I mean, is there anything else that a butcher can do? It's a weird thing, though. It does leave open opportunities for your party to explore, or for you to explore how you might want to get in. Maybe you want to do some kind of monster hunter kind of system, and you want to have some kind of meats preparation of different meats of beasts. And so then this kind of butcher with processing skills becomes more important. Perkins, where are the prisons? Don't they have workhouses? Put those thieves to work, get them off the street. You're kind of giving me a little Ebenezer Scrooge there. Oh, there are no workhouses. Oh, there are no prisons. No, there are not. Where would prisons go? Let's see. We have that's a good just to look here. Barracks, moat, fortification, stables, towers, castle, keep, court, prison. Oh, there it is. Okay, so prison is part of order. No, there's no prison. So I think having prisons in these towns, it's kind of one of these things where we're sort of backfilling from modern times. I think prisons are relatively new, aren't they? Mostly kind of a 19th century, maybe 18th century invention. I think back in the day, you didn't have prisons. You might have had a dungeon, you might have had a small jail where you have people who are waiting to be processed, but that's why you're cutting off hands and ears and fingers, or just putting them into oubliettes. It's because you're trying not to just support people living off of you. You want to just get them through the system and then spit them out and put them in a place where they can't keep doing the bad things they were doing before, as opposed to 'cause I think it's a really sort of, at least in part, a Quaker idea of you can become redeemed. I visited Eastern State Penitentiary, which is a no longer open prison, but it's you can visit. It's kind of a museum, and they talked about these Quaker ideals of you go in, do your time, and then you come out a changed person, really being that kind of ideal. I don't think it existed in medieval times. So I wouldn't think a lot of places would have prisons, even though in fiction and a lot of games we have these big prisons in our medieval towns and places. But I don't have them in mind because this is why you're going to the headsman for even minor, potentially minor offenses, or you're getting limbs cut off because they don't want to support you living in a cell. They're just trying to get you to stop doing what you're doing and get on with their day. See, throwing in some Mad Mardigan. Just let me out of here, Peck. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Public shaming, lock them in the stocks. Yeah, all these very low maintenance kind of things. No one wants to build a big prison that's just going to have some people. And then you have to have guards. You barely have a lot of people full time in your employed militarily anyway. You're going to waste that manpower on just guarding people like that. No, you want them guarding your forts, or you want them marching on the nearest duke who scuffed your curled toe ancient Adidas and pissed you off. That's what you're doing. You're leaving them to die, or you're trying to just leave them in a state where they just can't continue with their malfeasance. President says, if we build a prison, we will have to raise taxes. Yeah, and who wants to raise taxes? In this example, we've defined the technology scores, and we can now calculate our building materials. In each technology, you will divide the score between 5 and round down. That is our available building materials for that technology. What? I know. In each technology, you will divide the score. I think I'm starting to wonder if this person's or persons are not English first language folks, just because of some of these language things. Anyway, okay, so you divide the score by 5, round down, and that's our materials. So they said, here are our building materials per technology. So let's see, we had 74. 74 divided by 5 is more than 3. I don't I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so we have that. I'm not sure. I don't know this following the example, but maybe I'm missing something. I'm not sure. With our total building materials, we can now begin to allocate them into building types and then begin creating our buildings. Each building type has a limit of 5 building materials. Let's start with crime. We have 3 building materials. We can place them into any one of the following building or any of the following building categories: black market, trafficking, guild, drugs, magic, and the underworld. Ooh, I like magic in the underworld. Since this town seems to have a crime in second place for the highest technology score, I'm going to place 2 materials into drugs and 1 material into guild. Is that what they did? 2? No. Well, they ended up. Thought they said they were going to use this example, but then the stuff they're saying doesn't match up with the example. Ah. I think is it divine? I think each one of these has 5 things in it. No, production has 6. I'm really digging what they're doing basically, but I think the details, I don't know if I'm missing it. I don't know if they're doing the best, maybe not quite getting it across as efficiently as they could. Frederick, they have not mentioned a tax system yet, but you can get some vaults to store all your loot in, and goodness knows this town gets a lot of loot. So they do get 50,000, almost 50,000 gold pieces per month, but we don't have a rate of tax. I'm sure they've calculated this somehow, so maybe we'll see. And then they continue to do that for every technology until they have all their building materials distributed. Okay. I think the one thing I'm curious about is somewhere it's lost me here from this rolling of dice, these total dice to average. They haven't really. I wish they would have said, like, hey, we rolled the dice and we got this, and now we're applying it so I could see it from all the way at the beginning to the end. But we're just going to keep going. So I'm not going to go through all these different places. I think we can kind of figure it out. It's pretty self explanatory, all the different bits. Oh my gosh, this thing is huge. I don't know if this is going to be the whole stream. Oh my gosh. Well, let's just keep going. I might have to cut this short. 5 available factions in the world. Each faction has a code of ethics. and what they achieve in a town. Each brings their own benefits and drawbacks. This is very D&D 5e sort of Forgotten Realms centric. We get entries for Emerald Enclave, the Harpers, Lord's Alliance, Order of the Gauntlet, and the Zentarum. And they have you get some. I guess you can. I guess you can set percentages because I know that their example had the Zentarum at 100%. So it's kind of cool, but I'm gonna breeze past it. Here we go. Economics. Roll D4 to determine your town's property tax. So it could range from 10% to 25%. And what does that mean with faction control? It just says it, but they don't say what it means. Then we get population maintenance. Some more tables. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. So we get the percentage of children, and then there's some kind of penalties. Could have a percentage of elders with some penalties, and then a percentage of bums. Oh, the hobos. Hobos attack. Yes. The bows. Hey, Bo. Yeah. Speaking of that, if you want to see, might be, I don't even know what would be second place, the best hobo movie, in my opinion, that's been made. Emperor of the North Pole with Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, somebody else. Takes place in the Depression. Great film. It's all about riding the rails, hobos, hobo fights, hobos fighting the man. Really, really good. Really enjoyed that movie a lot. Emperor of the North trying to ride Shaq's train. I'm not going to spoil anymore. Go watch it. It's from the early 70s. Really good. All right. So yeah, we got it. You can check for your percentage of kids, old people, and bums. Very nice. I'm really just going to keep scrolling down. This is very comprehensive. I think it just needs more explanation. Some of the stuff seems like they're giving a very short explanation. You do get a nice thing of trade goods. That's right, Frederick. No, I can't. I can't be. Can't be Emperor of the North Pole. Nope. All right. And I'm pretty sure. I want to say here's another thing. If you've seen Escape from New York, Ernest Borgnine's in that movie as Cabby, and Cabby, he's kind of a free agent, but he's kind of a he definitely goes whichever way the wind's blowing, sort of thing. And you have Isaac Hayes as the was it the Duke of New York, but he also is called A Number One, and A Number One was Lee Marvin's character in Emperor of the North Pole, who was fighting Ernest Borgnine's Shack, and Ernest Borgnine's Shack is like a tough, serious, evil, kind of villainous guy. And if you already think of Ernest Borgnine as kind of like, oh, he's sort of fun and chubby and smiley, and his charming gap tooth smile. Watch him in that movie as Shaq. It's a different Borgnine. All right, so there's a bunch of good stuff here. I'm glad it was a lot of tables because I don't think I could have managed to get through it all. I would definitely say load or give it a look. I think I'd love to see a guide on how to use the guide, or maybe they'll keep fleshing it out. I think that, I mean, I would be interested in, as a product. I think there's a place for it. I just think it needs a lot of clarifications and things. But good job by Izoxy or whomever that is. And okay, I did upvote it there. I will upvote it in both spots. Oh, here we go. Another one from DM Academy. Hungry DM24 is seeking advice on the fate of an NPC. Context: the formal adventure begins with the PCs arriving at a town where the town master is dead. As written, it doesn't matter much that she's dead. The town is just a starting point with a follow-on quest to get to the larger adventure. Edit: the cause of death is obvious. The follow-on quest sends them toward those responsible. The dilemma. I began the campaign with solo adventures, me and each player, and two of them were given quests somewhat involving the town master. One is to warn that a faction group is en route to kill the town master and take over the town. The other is to negotiate peace between the town master and the nearby wood elves. Neither of these quests are consequential. They were just meant to elicit concern about the game world and prompt the PCs to go to the town, where they will get follow on quests for larger adventures. I'm concerned, though, that leaving her dead as written will make the PCs feel their quests removed. On the other hand, keeping her alive may slow down the larger adventure. What do you all think? And then we have a spoiler. I don't know why they spoiled it. Okay, it's Storm King's Thunder. I don't know enough about, or I might have read through Storm's King's Thunder ages and ages ago, and I don't recall it. So, all right, so that reference means nothing to me. Yes, I think having these 2 quests involving the town masters is good. I kinda like that idea. That, "Oh, we're have the starter town, I'm gonna run you each on a little mini quest, get you to the town," and then you get this contact person of the town master. So you have somebody who can be a quest giver, can be an ally, can be someone to bring the whole party together. So PC1, who had a quest with the town master trying to save them from assassins, PC2 helping negotiate a peace. They do those little side missions, and then when they come in the game together, you can have the town master say, "Okay, I want to introduce you and you. I want you guys to work together to do these things." By killing the town master, yeah, you are severing that tie that you've made. You've made this nice thing that binds these 2 PCs together, and now you've just blown it up for nothing. It's not even a payoff to something. It's just at the start. You could do some things that she's poisoned and she's slowly succumbing, but if they could figure out the poison, they could find the cure, something like that. It could be that they were kidnapped. If you can track down who kidnapped her, that would also be good. That also be a reason for them to come together. We're both looking for the town master. Let's work together, kind of thing. I think there's a lot of things to do. Yeah, I would say yes. I know that I'm sure it was meant as you want to start things with a bang. The town master's dead. But then when you think about it, which I think this person's doing, which I think is good, is thinking about it going, well, wait a minute. If I do that, sure, maybe I don't have that punchy, like, oh, the town master's dead, bam, kind of moment. But now I've kind of hobbled myself in terms of the tools that I have for the party. So I would definitely keep them alive in some way for now. And then down the line, I wouldn't say you have to kill them off, but down the line, if you want to use the town master later to pull some strings and be in something, then use that for later. But for now, keep them up as, especially at the beginning of your campaign, let them be your first sort of guide to kind of give these PCs some direction and really use that while it's important. And then when it comes less important, you can decide if their time is up or what you want to do with it. Morgan says, have her abducted or taken away, disappeared. Keep it a mystery. If the players dig or scratch the itch, then expand on the plot. Yeah. I think in this case, remember, we're in a Perkins, just to keep in mind, we're in a fifth edition centric thing. So I don't, fifth edition centric subreddit. So I don't think they're working on a sandboxy, oh, if they decide not to scratch it, we're going to do something else. Clearly, as this person said, there will get follow on quests. This is to push them, propel them into a quest. So from that standpoint, from these kind of things, we don't really want to give them a choice, or we don't want to give them kind of more limited choices because we don't want them to turn around and go the other way. We want them to continue on into Storm King's Thunder. So I think from that standpoint, it's a lot easier just to keep them alive and then say, okay, go here, or make them the subject of something, but in kind of an obvious way to keep that momentum going, and not so much the, well, you can choose to do it or not, because that's kind of not their game. But I agree, in like an OSR kind of other sort of game, I would definitely say, yeah, that's just an element in that's happening, and you can do that, or you can go to the nearest whatever and do it. Available Natural 314 says, feels like you've set the hook for a murder investigation, then dropped it and walk away. If I was the players, I would want to complete the arc, so you should consider where you want to go, where that to go, in case they follow that up rather than picking up the new hook. And then a hungry DM response, thanks. The town master's cause of death is obvious to everyone involved. Giants threw boulders from above, so there's no mystery. The next quest sends them more or less towards the responsible giants. Trying to keep the post short and sweet. I can see how what I type made it seem like a mystery. So it's not really a mystery per se. I think you just have the Giants miss, and then the town master. Maybe they can even, if you want to make it a scene, have them save the town master, and then take on the quest. I think it's always a little bit dangerous to count on the PCs. The available natural 31 4 said if they were one of the players, they want to complete the arc. But players always think of this idea of arcs. I don't really get into a game and think I want to complete this story. Like, there's no real story. Oh, oh, like if my original mission was, well, I wanted to warn them that warn her that a faction group is en route to kill the town master and take over the town. I'm gonna assume that say the Giants aren't that faction. My job was to warn them. It happened anyway. Do I necessarily want to? Maybe. I don't know if I would just I don't know if I would count on that. I think it's you never want to count on the PCs making these choices. And with nothing propelling them other than, well, we were doing a job that involved the town master. Now the town master's gone. Does that mean I want to do these things? I wouldn't count on it. Would not count on it. Don't count your plot hooks before they've hatched. Oh, let me give them a thumbs up. What else have we got? And if usual, if you see something that I pass over for one reason or another, please call it to my attention. I'm happy to go back and read it. Here's one, might be good. This is from the world building subreddit. Spoiler tagged. Oh my gosh, how big is this? Okay. Question for you world building DMs out there. This is posted by Ganoush. Have you ever created a world or part of a world, a city, etc., with the intent to completely destroy it? I DM a D&D podcast called Forge of Lore. For this campaign, I built a world from scratch, inspired by the art of Simon Stalenhag, Tales from the Loop. My world is essentially a medieval Viking-inspired culture living on a planet littered with ancient, high-tech artifacts left behind by a long-gone culture, sort of in the vein of Horizon Zero Dawn. Except almost none of the tech works. We have an animation video explain the world a little bit better. All right, that's fine. Fine. My first idea for a city, and what inspired me to pitch this campaign to my players, is a place called Jotunfolter, Giant's Foot. It's a city in the desert that sits in the shadow of a gargantuan defunct robot. The planet Thorn is tidal locked with its sun, meaning the sun never moves in the sky, so the city sits comfortably in the shadow under the robot. As soon as I came up with the idea of a city under a defunct robot, my next immediate thought was, I don't know why they spoiled this. Oh crap, that robot is going to have to come alive and destroy that city. Sort of laughed at myself with the thought, but then that idea spun into a million ideas that formed my plans for the entire campaign. Anyway, we just released chapter 10 of the campaign where the robot finally activates and attacks the city. That made me wonder, has anyone ever created a large piece of the world fully expecting it to be annihilated? Well, for myself, I don't know if I would say I expect it to be fully annihilated, but I'm always ready for it to be. And that's something that, oh, it feels like ages of the world ago when I looked at, oh, what was it? That Lamentations supplement with the giant flying city or the flying city that's inhabited by giants. I'm forgetting, spacing out the name of it. Part of what I really liked about that was this idea that you could have this thing that could show up in your campaign world and just obliterate places and really just shake up the map. And that I think I would want to just have that on some kind of roll, have a world roll, 1D100, and on a 100, Broodmother Sky Fortress. On 100, and null terminated corrects me right as I remembered it myself. And have some kind of world events table, and on a 100, the Broodmother Sky Fortress shows up on the map and just starts pummeling stuff on this path through. And you can replace that particular object with something else, but something just destructive happens. So while I've never built something saying, "Ooh, I'm going to destroy this," I've always thought it'd be neat to have that there. And then if it does show up, it just becomes this great world-changing event that just shakes everything up in ways that the players and certainly myself can't anticipate. We never know when the Broodmother Sky Fortress might show up, but it might show up, and then we deal with it. And then hopefully we have the wherewithal to just play the ball as it lies, so to speak, and not try to edit it to preserve things. Right? Don't treat our stuff like precious, or like they're precious. Just like you've been have your building blocks on the table, and then you just throw a bean bag or a ball at them and watch the blocks just fall apart and scatter. Alternative says is also like the final stage, quote unquote, final stage of Long Winter. Not familiar with Long Winter. Is that a video game, Null Terminated? Role playing game, movie? Sounds like a video game reference, but I don't know. Only one response, and that's from Tanner SR262. The capital. The ancient empire of my world stood for thousands of years, so long that its capital lost its previous name and just became known as the capital. They built it from the ground up, imagining where the inner and outer walls would be, where the palace was, where the rich and poor districts were, how it handled the river that passed through it, and then once it was complete, ice shattered it. The God War ripped the capital apart, and now I had a perfect ruin for my D&D group to explore. That's cool. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. What else do we have here? I have no idea how a planet without oceans would work. No idea at all. Let's see. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. I'm trying to see if we get some stuff from some different subreddits. I'll jump into the OSR real quick because that I lament about um, this what do we call it? Multi Reddit is that some of the other groups, some of the other subreddits that are part of this multi Reddit have get a lot more traffic than little old OSR subreddit, and so OSR subreddit gets a little bit overshadowed, let's say. So I'll see. So for the last one or two things, let's look at. Oh, Null Terminator says it's the mini setting by Luca Regic. Regic? Regic? I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Sorry, Luca, for that butchery. Cool. I'll have to check it out. Best alternative for Molve, best OSR system for 1 hour sessions. I kind of think most of them would do. Riverbend, shock damage, house rule critique. This might be good. This is posted by Seluman. Hey, y'all. I've been reviewing some of my sessions with Whitebox FMAG. All right, what is FMAG? Oh, I had it for a while. I had it memorized. Keep wanting to say Full Metal. Something adventure game. See, there it is. These acronyms and abbreviations, and I can't remember. Somebody in the chat, let me remind me what FMAG stood for. Anyhow, Perkins says they like Tiny Dungeon D6 mechanics for short one-shot games. Oh, cool. They've noticed a certain issue. Perkins asked if I'm familiar with Tiny. No, I'm not, Perkins. I'll look it up, though. So the issue here that they've discovered with FMAG doesn't occur often, but there are some instances where combat encounters drag as attack rolls are consistently low. To help mitigate this, they were thinking about instituting the following system based off of Worlds Without Numbers shock damage rules. Number one, if an attack roll fails to beat a target's armor class but results in a roll of 10 or higher, this is using ascending armor class, small amount of damage is still inflicted. Number two, if wielding a one-handed weapon, one damage is dealt. If two-handed, two damage is dealt. Adjusted by strength, maybe. Monsters follow a similar rule, perhaps dealing half HD damage in certain cases, such as a 6 HD Minotaur dealing 3 shock despite wielding a two-handed weapon. And then third, magic armor spells or monster/supernatural abilities might negate this. I haven't played with shock damage. Have anybody here in the chat, anybody played with shock damage? Raid LC, I will definitely look up Long Winter and we'll give it a run through. I think the shock damage in general is a really interesting element. I haven't played with it in myself. Haven't felt the need to, but I can see how I think any of the kind of OSR systems, any of these systems where you're just rolling versus armor, there's just a certain amount of luck of the dice. And then you can do well, you can do poorly. And if you're doing well, then everything's going to fly by. If you're doing poorly and the monsters are doing well, then it's still going to fly by just in a maybe more terrifying way for the players. If both of you are doing poorly, both sides, then it just turns into a slog. Now, on the one hand, you can think, okay, players, what alternate things can you do? How can you get some pluses? How can you get flanking? This is where you should be thinking about as a player. We're rolling poorly. I need to do something. I need to take a risk. Try to get around this monster so me and the other fighter, me and whoever can try to flank it. Try to drop something on its head. The wizard maybe could throw some kind of AoE style attack. We got a torch. Do we have something? What can we do? Do we just need to just back off? I think the problem, though, is which most people find, if you feel like it's just bad luck that's holding you back, you're generally not going to change your tactics because you're just saying it's bad luck. The dice are going to turn. The dice are going to turn. My tactics are sound. So I get it. You may not think to change tactically because you're just looking for, I can't help it. There's no tactic. If I'm rolling sixes and unders, there's no tactic in the world I can use that's going to make something work. I just need to roll better. just need to have better luck. And then something with the shock damage is going to mean that you're constantly taking damage and you're constantly giving damage. So you're not getting the spikes that you would get by actually hitting, but you're progressing. So the fight is always progressing. So I appreciate that. When you have small amounts of hit points, though, that shock damage means that fights are going to be really fast, and you're going to have that maybe that luck in reverse. If I'm doing okay, so here we have losing their system. A one-handed weapon does one damage. They have some guys with one-handed weapons and shields. They're doing poorly. There's five of them, but they're fighting some kind of 3 HD creature who I don't know, maybe is doing half HD. I don't know, round up or down. So let's say we're doing one damage each a turn, but in terms of hit points, my players or the player characters have 1 to 6 hit points. This 3 HD creature has 3 to 18 hit points. Just doing that 1 1 1 1 1 1 means that players are going to just start to drop, even if they're playing defensively. Even if there's like, geez, we're going to play defensively, they're going to drop. So in some ways, it's just going to exacerbate your bad luck. If your party's having bad luck and they're fighting against creatures that have more hit points than them, which I think is fairly often. Oftentimes, the monsters are going to have more hit points than the characters, but the characters, the frontline folks anyway, are going to have better armor classes. I would say most of the time, but maybe not. Probably depends on the creatures, but may not work in their favor. Then you have multiple monsters, could make it even worse. So I don't know. I would definitely give it a try. I think anything that helps get out of the funk that a combat can get into, it's kind of like what I think there definitely is a problem, in other words, of when nobody hits and combat's just kind of a standstill. So I'm all open for what can we do to solve that problem. But I think there's going to be good and bad things. I would definitely lean into classes though. Fighters would do very well with shock damage. Say you're somewhat partially martial classes like clerics, maybe get a little bit. Other guys, no, I'm not giving your magic users and maybe even thieves if they're not backstabbing. Or, I would maybe make an exception in some cases for thieves, but you're not getting much shock damage. Fighters gonna get a bunch of shock damage. I would maybe even have that shock damage scale with their level. Half their levels round down, maybe just their level. So a 10th level fighter just does 10 hit points of damage and just smears anything small just into a stain onto the ground if they stand there, which I would totally go for. And then monsters, I would do something else. It's also of course going to change the flavor of your game. Monsters are going to be inherently a lot more dangerous if they're constantly wearing you down in damage, even if you're heavily armored. If I'm a fighter and I'm like, okay, I'm in my plate armor, I've got my shield, I'm taking my defensive positioning, and I'm still getting banged down 1 hit point or whatever around, that's tough. I mean, if at low levels anyway, I'm like, whew, that's tough. Now, are we going to have some kind of mechanic after battle so that we can get some of this back? Or is it going to be, even though in 3 rounds, if we were just rolling dice, they never would have hit me, but now I've lost 3 hit points and now I got to go into another encounter potentially. This is just the beginning of the dungeon. So there's probably going to be more combat going on. Then it's going to be a little different. So I would want to weigh these things out, think about them at least if I were to implement shock damage. Escalation die is good. Yeah, you could combine the escalation die with shock damage too. That might even be something to think about. That the escalation die is the shock damage. Ian says warriors and the type have ways to mitigate shock. I haven't read Worlds Without Numbers character, that kind of stuff. I should probably go do that and maybe do that on stream, do some of the mechanical side. Because when we did the Worlds Without Numbers stuff, if you remember, it was just the world building stuff. So I need to go back and look at that. Oh, and Perkins is letting me know, telling me all about Tiny D6. I'll have to check it out later, Perkins. Cool. Well, look at that. Already, that is a stream. Well, we got through a few things. I really dig that town system. Stuff in there I'm going to think about. I like a lot of what they've done to kind of categorize things, but I think it needs some help. I think it needs some help. And then we looked at some other stuff. If on the way out you could give a thumbs up, that would be awesome. If you found yourself in here and you enjoyed this and you feel like subscribing, that would also be awesome. Perkins, I will check out that Tiny D6. Maybe I'll look it up right after I get out of here. Anything else? Anyone else wants to send me? We've got comments. Find me on Reddit. I'm Hex Pressman on Reddit. I'm Hex Pressman on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. I'm Hex Press on TikTok. If you want to shoot me over a question, if you're on TikTok and We want to exchange follows and shoot me over a question on TikTok. That's awesome too. Feel free to go to the forums, forums.hex.press. Shout out to Perkins again, who went through and has been mocking up some dungeons using the kind of 1E DMG and some other tools like we did on a couple streams earlier this week. Lots of cool stuff going on, lots of ways to find me. So let me know if there's stuff we should be covering, if there's things I missed, if there's things like Tiny D6 I should check out, or what's the other one as I'm already, or Long Winter, for example. Um, I am open to doing it and happy to cover it here or elsewhere or anywhere. But I got a jet. So, folks, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody. I will talk to you later. Bye now.